save your country before it's long gone. Texian arrives, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. They like our tax dollars, love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks. They'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texian arrives, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. Texian arrives, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texian arrives, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long. Save your country before it's long gone.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Daniel Miller with the Texas Nationalist Movement. And as you can see, I am not in my usual spot where I do these. I am indeed in a hotel room somewhere in Dallas, as a matter of fact. And tonight, there was supposed to be a Q&A scheduled, and I was not available to do it. I had some pressing family business. Some of you may be aware, my daughter underwent brain surgery today here in Dallas. And so when they got her scheduled, I had to shuffle the schedule around and beat feet from Dallas to get up here and be with her. And for those of you who did know about it, I want to thank you so much for your well wishes and your prayers. They were greatly appreciated. I think you will all be glad to know that she came out of the surgery unscathed. As a matter of fact, true to form, proof positive that she is indeed my child. Her first thought when she got out of recovery and got awake and into her ICU room was to play a prank on everyone, to speak gibberish, to make everybody think that the surgeon scrambled her brain. So yeah, she's my child, right? No doubt about that. Well, look, so I was not able to do the Q&A tonight, the scheduled Q&A. We will reschedule, but I thought what I would do is I would just fire up the laptop. I mean, we don't have, I think the Wi-Fi will hold out. The camera's not what you're used to, and I'm sure the audio is pretty doggone pitiful in comparison. But we're gonna get through it. So I thought I would fire this up, and we could do a little impromptu Q&A here. Yes, I'm seeing some of the chat, and Regina said, "Good grief about the prank." And yeah, it's just she's my kid. There's no doubt about it. But look, we will mush on, right? We will let the technology just connect us, and we will make do with what we've got right now. So let's get this underway. Let me remind you, we are currently live streaming on YouTube, our Facebook page, and two of our Facebook groups, the Texas Nationalist Movement Discussion Group and the TNM Members exclusive Facebook group. And we're looking at adding some additional channels here pretty soon as well. We're not going out, I think, over Periscope or Twitter like we normally do. I don't know why it didn't fire up. But let me remind you, I am monitoring chat, right? So I have this. So if you have questions or specific topics that you want to talk about, I'll be more than happy to address those with you. But look, it is late night coffee talk, right? So it is sort of late. I mean, not late for me because I stay up at all hours, but coffee, I'm good. And as you can see, I mean, those of you who want to know how serious we are about this, that is the coffee pot that Kara brings on the road with us. So we can make sure those little single cup coffee makers just do not do the trick for us. So we have to make sure that we have an abundance of coffee, and you can see it right back there. So we're set. All right. So look, let's get down to it. And again, for all of you in the chat, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and Savannah appreciates it as much as the morphine will let her appreciate anything right now other than the morphine, right? But she's doing great. But just a reminder, hey, look, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, be sure to click like and subscribe on this video. And of course, we do have Super Chat rocking over there. So you want to throw a Super Chat out there, feel free to drop a little change in the jar. We're getting ready on the other side of this. I have a meeting tomorrow. Just so happens CPAC is happening right here in Dallas while we're here for Savannah surgery. And so I have a meeting tomorrow with some members of the European Parliament that are total Eurosceptics that sought us out and want to know more about Texian. And I just literally happen to be in Dallas while they're here. So I'm meeting with like 5 or 6 members of the European Parliament tomorrow. And, Savannah's cool with that. So, and then we're headed out. We've got a string of dates coming up. All of you folks in the Panhandle in West Texas, you just got emails this evening. I think they were on the list that went out Sunday for events, but we're going to be hitting, let's see, it is Amarillo on Monday, Lubbock on Tuesday, Midland on Wednesday, and we just added Abilene for Thursday. So basically, I'm going to be on the road, so is the rest of the team. It's going to be fun. So we're coming for you, West Texas and the Panhandle. Be sure you turn out. And speaking of, I see a lot of questions about Governor. We're going to talk about that, and they're popping through in chat. So we'll get to those here in a second. But just a reminder, absolutely make sure that if you are in West Texas or the Panhandle, that you get out to those meetings. Okay, so I said YouTube, like, subscribe. If you're watching on our Facebook page, be sure you do likewise, like and share, right? And not only that, if you are watching this that someone has shared, be sure you like our Facebook page, right? It helps us beat the algorithm. All right, that being said, let me get over here to this chat. You guys have a lot of questions coming. Obviously, a lot of the questions are surrounding the announcement. Hang on, let me just scroll back up here. Thank you guys for all the prayers. I mean, it means an awful lot. Okay, Craig says Texans or Texians. Okay, so let me talk about that. This is probably not high on the priority list for everyone, but I get this question an awful lot, and I think it would be a good opportunity to talk about it. Now, a little bit of a history lesson. One of the things that we talk about, as a matter of fact, if you've got a copy of my book, Line in the Sand, I talk about this, but we talked about it internally in the TNM since 2005. Mirabeau Lamar, the first vice president and the second president of the Republic of Texas, was an ardent Texas nationalist, right? He believed that Texas always should be a self-governing independent nation, right? So he's called alternatively the father of Texas education because he believed in making sure that everyone was educated. But second, he's also called the father of Texas nationalism because of his diehard, ardent belief in the potential greatness of an independent, self-governing Texas, right? So one of the things that you will see a lot, especially in those old documents, right? You look at the army that Sam Houston led, it was referred to as the Texian army. And Lamar latched onto that term and because it was widely in use, and it referred to people that were sort of independent Texians, right? They were the people in Texas that embraced independence. Because you have to remember, in those days, I mean, Texan would be used too, kind of like Mexican would be used, but also Texican and Texian. And so they didn't want to use Texan because or Texican. Texian was sort of a preferred term, hence the Texian army. And I mean, there's a little bit of scholarly work on it, but that was a term that was latched onto. And you'll see opposition talk about Texian was used to exclusively refer to the Anglo settlers, and that's not correct at all. If that was the case, then Houston's army would never have been called the Texian army, right? Because it was comprised of both Anglos and Hispanics, right? Or Tejanos, as some people call them. But you also have to remember the Anglo settlers were sometimes called Tejanos too by the Hispanics because they lived in Tejas, okay? So Lamar, he had this term that was in wide use, and he fostered and encouraged the use of the term Texian, and it was the most widely used term to refer to people that live here, even after Texas became a state. And it began to phase out sometime around the 1860s, 1870s. It became it just shifted over to Texan, right? So what we have all come to know in these recent generations is the term Texan. And, and that's fine. You want to call it Texan, but internally, right, in the organization, we made a decision when we were founded in 2005 that what we would do is we would use the term Texian to create an internal distinction between those people that were, that live here in Texas. They're Texas in every aspect, but they're not necessarily on the independent side yet. Right. And then on the other side, the people that have crossed this proverbial line in the sand and embraced independence. And we sort of always internally joke that the I in Texian stood for independence. As a matter of fact, some of you have actually seen me when I'm suited up, doing what I do, speaking on these things, and I wear a lapel pin with the T&M symbol with our logo. But instead of the T&M in the middle, it has an I. And back many years ago, when we got new members in, they would join, everyone would go through a new member orientation. And the goal was to add the I, and that I was for independence, but it was also to signify that you added the I to the Texan to become a Texian. So that's it. I love the term Texian, not just for nostalgia reasons, but I think it really does create a very clear distinction between those that are here, that are, they were born here, they've lived here a long time, they're Texan perhaps in name only, and those people that are completely on board with Texas becoming a self-governing independent nation. They're Texians. So that's a good question, Craig. Thank you for asking that and giving me an opportunity to address it. That will be chopped up and posted on the website, so I don't have to answer it again. Okay, scrolling through. I'm seeing a lot of questions about the governor's race. Okay, so let me go ahead and tackle that really quickly. Obviously, some big news this week is Allen West, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, former head of the Republican Party of Texas, entered into the race. So now, primarying Abbott, you have Chad Prather, I don't know. Don Huffines and Allen West. And people have been asking if we have endorsed. We have not. As an organization, we have not endorsed. I can tell you that I have personally met with Allen West. Huffines will not meet with us, nor will Chad Prather. So, and obviously Abbott's not going to, because he's one of the biggest impediments that we've had over the years to getting and winning a vote on Texas independence. So I can't say any more than that. I think the positions have become abundantly clear. I think Prather has made some comments potentially in favor of it, but I've not seen anything concrete other than the T-shirts he's selling. Huffines dodges it. Abbott won't comment on it. He will just sneakily work behind the scenes against us. And Alan West says that he is not necessarily for Texas, but he's for us at least being able to vote on the issue and then seeing what comes of that. So until we kind of get a little bit further down the road on these, I don't know that we're going to have any sort of good resolution on it. But let's just kind of hold on and see. And contrary to some of the rattlings out there, we have not endorsed. I have not endorsed. I haven't picked anyone. I haven't come out and said this is the guy. The TNM hasn't come out and said this is the guy. We set our criteria. We were very clear about that, about the people we were going to endorse and what the criteria was going to be, about membership and unequivocal support of our mission and things of that nature. And yeah, it's kind of a high bar, but aren't we really suffering from setting the bar too low? I mean, that's kind of what got us into this mess, right? 1 second, I need to fix one technical issue. Hang on. Boom, much better. That backlight was killing me. Well, maybe not. Maybe we need to turn that back on, unless you guys can see me okay. Okay, so that's kind of where we are on the governor's race. We don't have a lot to say about it right now. It's still pretty early. I mean, people are running hard. The propaganda's out. People are attacking each other. So what do you do? Right. I mean, it's kind of on, but frankly, not everything's settled yet. I mean, there's still a lot of daylight between here and where things start getting really serious. Okay, let me scroll down through here. Okay, Chris wants to know, he says, are we going to have something on the website, on the TNM website, that shows how many signatures we have to get and what we need, like progress? I understand it shows how many we have collected after we turn them in, but just need as a number what we need to acquire as a countdown. Yeah, that's there. I mean, we'll begin processing next week. And when we do that, you'll see the goal. The goal will be posted and you will see the countdown progress, right? But a signature is not a valid signature until it is verified. It's just the way it works, right? This is a legal petition. This is not the online White House petition. This is one where you physically have to go get it signed and it has to be verified. I mean, there's this whole thing, and I'm not going to go into it again tonight. I covered it during the last time, the Q&A that's posted. So go, folks should go back and watch that, or go to tnm.me/petition and read up on it. But yeah, the countdown's already there. I mean, it's literally on the page. It's just not activated until we start the processing of verification. So there we go. Hey, thank you, Missouri, for your love and support. We do appreciate it. Grayman Smith, I'm not sure who you are. He says, I feel a little guilty, but the more the feds come down with gun control laws, the more Texans will become, well, you put Texians, and I don't want to be a Texian. I mean, I think that's kind of the problem, right? But I'm sure you meant Texian, but it's okay. Okay, that was a governor question. Moving right through. Okay, lots of signatures from the Waco meeting. That's a good report. That's fantastic. And look, one of the things that's getting ready to happen, we're getting ready to launch a brand new section of our website Monday. And I'm not going to get into the details. I mean, there'll be an official launch and all that sort of thing. But one of the things that obviously we're recruiting petition circulators, right? People that can collect signatures. But for a lot of you out there, when you're sending in emails and phone calls and things and comments and saying, why don't we have meetups in this town? Well, a lot of that reason is because we don't have a local coordinator there. So My suggestion to you is if you don't, check the events. If nothing's happening there, then definitely go to tnm.me/local and fill out the form and stick your hand up in the air and say, look, I'll help organize my local area. We've got lots of areas where we have members, we've got, supporters in this area, but no one has jammed their hand in the air to say, look, I am so far on board for Texas independence that I will take responsibility and organize this area. So make sure you do that. Okay. Okay, boom. That's fun. I always love when I get to block somebody on YouTube. Not gonna tolerate your racist comments. So pound sand. Okay. Donnie wants to know, are you going to republish Line in the Sand? I would love to read it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the Texit book actually came from me working to try to get Line in the Sand back in print. Okay. So a little backstory if you guys want this, but when I approached Defiance Press, initially it was about getting a Line in the Sand back in print, and they agreed. They, Dave and the team over there, they were so wonderful about this, and they're like, absolutely. They said, what we'd like for you to do is get it updated, because by that time, I think Line in the Sand was around 2011. Right. They wanted me to update it. I had some things I wanted to do to get it updated and expanded and reorganized. And so that was the thing, plus one additional book. And what happened is I started working on Line in the Sand, the updates and sort of the revisions and expansions. I kept getting distracted by the Texit question, right? I mean, it was just, because if you guys, for those of you who have read Line in the Sand and Texit, they are two very different books. I mean, there's some threads that connect, but I always say Line in the Sand is more about sort of the underpinning philosophy of Texas nationalism and kind of how we get to this point, and that the reiteration of that whole Line in the Sand moment and kind of what you do next. It's about the individual Texas nationalist and how that fits in that mindset, right? That's what Line in the Sand was about. And Texit is sort of the mechanical aspects of the process of Texit, right? So in the process of the revision and expansion of Line in the Sand, I ended up getting kind of sidetracked. I just kept revisiting the Texit question over and over. And by the time it was over with, I hadn't updated or revised Line in the Sand. I wrote Texit. And so, Defiance was great. I mean, they were happy to work with me to get that published. And it's done quite well, but I've got to revisit Line in the Sand to get all those things done. It's just a matter of time right now, but I do take frequent stabs at it and revisit it. And I'm not going to say I'm close, but there's progress being made. Potentially could be faster, but not right now. Okay, let's scroll down through here. Okay, here's someone. They said, could other states join Texas or at least become solid friends with Texas? Look, this has been our take from day one about this, right? We don't want Texas to leave a political and economic union, some absolute political economic union where we have delegated off our sovereignty and our right of self-government to some body that is not us, right? We don't want that. So this idea of a union on the other side of this is really kind of opposite of what we want to do. However, what we have said is that those absolute political and economic unions like that are frankly anachronisms, right? They're 18th century solutions to 21st century problems. If you look around the world right now and you see the way that independent nations do business with one another, they do it by treaty or international convention, or, they say, hey, we agree on this set of things and this is how we work together. I mean, that's mutual defense, international postal union, currency unions. There's all kinds of ways that independent self-governing nations do business with one another, but do not solidify them into some absolute political and economic union. I make the case in the Texian book that the United States actually has free trade agreements with 22 other self-governing independent nations around the world, but which is essentially trade in a very similar fashion to as if they were one of the states, but none of those states has given up their sovereignty to the federal government. So if they don't have to for trade and travel and things of that nature, and they're essentially on par with us, the end result is on par with us, then why should we give up our right of self-government to a bunch of 2.5 million unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.? It's ridiculous. So, the advocacy on the other side of this has not been for the formation of another union, but to formulate trade agreements and travel agreements and things of that nature with other states that choose to leave the United States as well. We don't have to be in an absolute political and economic union with Oklahoma or Louisiana to trade with them or travel between one another or do any of those things. And I make that case very solidly in the Texian book. Okay, so scrolling right along. Michael's promoted to Texian. Welcome to the team, sir. Okay, boy, you guys are very chatty tonight. Hey, thank you, Roosevelt Media News, for your super chat. I do appreciate that. And a reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit like and subscribe. If you're watching us on our Facebook page, be sure to like the post. Be sure to share it. And in addition, if you have not already liked our Facebook page, please do so. Okay. Let's go through here. Yeah, Alexander, thank you very much. And thank you for being a supporter for 6 years. I do appreciate that. And hey, thank you, Doctor, for your super chat. I do appreciate that. Okay, scrolling right through here, Texian. Yeah, I know. See, that tells you how far behind I am, right? Okay, John has an interesting question. Well, hang on. Let me go back to Charles real quick, and then we'll get to this. Charles wants to know: will you ever get to Gatesville or Copperas Cove for signatures? Look, there are events spinning up everywhere. We're going to have some coordinated petition signing events that are statewide. You can always, just so you understand, every event on our event calendar right now is a petition signing event. There will be CPCs, certified petition circulators, at every event. That's kind of the criteria now. So you make sure you check the events, find something close by. Understand that we are not going to be able to get to every single house on every single block in every single neighborhood in every single city of Texas, right? So you're going to have to find the place that's closest to you. Now, the other part of that is, on the website, if you go to tnm.me/petition, there's a button there that says sign the petition. If you click that, it will take you to not just a list of the events, but also a map of petition circulators that have volunteered to be publicly listed in our petition circulator directory, right? So be looking, go look at that and find a petition circulator. Alternatively, what I would suggest is if you don't find a petition circulator that's near you, or you don't find an event that's near you, then become a petition circulator. You fill out a form, you take a 30-minute online course, all videoed out, that explains how it's done, become a CPC, sign your own petition, get more signatures on the page, help us start getting signatures, and you can be that person collecting signatures in your area, right? It's going to take a lot of petition circulators collecting signatures to get this thing done. So if there's not anyone in your area, then you could and by all rights should be that person. Okay. All right. John says, based on the Texas Constitution, was the Texas annexation to the U.S. legal? It's an interesting question. It's sort of an academic question, and I'll explain that, and I don't want to get too into the weeds because honestly I could take an hour to do an entire lecture about this whole question. From my perspective, what I have seen, I firmly believe that the annexation of Texas was constitutional for Texas, but unconstitutional for the United States. And I say that, and I'm not going to be able to get into all of the details for that. But what that does is it puts us kind of in a weird position, because if you look at the procedure that Texas used, ultimately it came down to a vote of the people, right? It was put to a vote of the people of Texas. And if we're saying that a vote can pull Texas out, then a vote certainly can put Texas in, right? That's pure Article 1, Section 2. If all political power is inherent in the people, and this was put to a referendum, the people said they want in, right? So regardless of any of the other extraneous issues, I mean, we could talk about the fact that Texas, actually, the Senate enacted a treaty. We could talk about the convention. I mean, in every way, Texas did right. We crossed every T, we dotted every I. The bad part was on the federal government. The federal side of things, because they could not get the number of required votes in the U.S. Senate to ratify the treaty, they annexed Texas by joint resolution of Congress. Now, you will hear people say all the time that Texas was annexed by treaty, and that's not correct at all. That is a pervasive myth that is just simply not true. You can find copies of the treaty. You can find copies of the treaty that was presented to the United States Senate, and you can find the final vote where the United States Senate voted down the treaty. So if two parties don't agree, there is no treaty. So Texas was not annexed by treaty. Texas was annexed by, effectively, on the Texas side, a referendum of the people, because that's ultimately where it landed, and on the federal side, by joint resolution of Congress. And so the question really is, can a joint resolution of Congress, is that simply enough to annex a self-governing, independent, sovereign nation state, right? Because the Constitution talks about the creation of new states, but we're talking about a separate political entity where the way that you do business between self-governing, independent nations, sovereign nations, is by treaty. So there's a massive question about the legality of it. But the real thing is about kind of practical application. What does that mean to us today? Well, as Texas came in perfectly fine on its side, right? We did everything we're supposed to do down to the vote of the people. Then we don't really have standing to go in and say, try to attack this judicially. Not that we would do that, but we don't have standing to do that because everything was fine on our side. But if one of the other states decided to, kick up their heels and do that, they could. But I mean, honestly, do you see the Supreme Court doing it? The victory for this is not in a court, right? This is not a justiciable issue. The victory for this is all contained in Article 1, Section 2. All political power is inherent in the people. That's where the battle must be won, and just the people of Texas, right? So yeah, I could go on about that for quite some time. Maybe I need to do like a little video series about that. We'll think about that. Okay. Joshua wants to know, will we be at CPAC this weekend? We will not be at CPAC this weekend, not officially, right? We will have petition circulators at the venue, collecting, or around the venue, collecting signatures. And as I mentioned there, I'm actually, as a complete accident, in Dallas, as a complete coincidence, the same weekend as CPAC. I was here for my daughter's surgery today, and it just so happens CPAC is here, and I will be making a brief visit to the event venue tomorrow to meet with some members of Eurosceptic members of the European Parliament that are in town that wanted to meet us. Okay. Hey, Beverly, thank you for your super chat on YouTube. I really do appreciate that. Would love to have a Texit TNM badge to display on Facebook. From your lips to the graphic designer's ears, we will see if we can't get that done for you. Okay, scrolling down through here. Yeah, I see a lot of conversation about some of the things we're talking about. I'm looking for some. Ryan North wants, can we get our ski country back? You want to know about the expanded maps, and honestly, Ski Texas is one of the greatest postcards ever. The fact of the matter is that land was sold. We were paid, but who knows? Maybe we can throw that into the pot of negotiation. Because we do have this substantial 103 to 160 billion dollar annual overpayment that is going to have to get set against our, whatever portion of the federal debt is. And I mean, there's a lot of really interesting scenarios where that's concerned. But yeah, we've thought about that. Ronnie wants to know, how long will Texas take? 4 to 8 years. So I'm guessing you're talking about Texas after we vote, how long it will take to kind of be over and done with it all. And I'm going to tell you from where I stand on the issue, when we look at the negotiation and transitional issues, right, there are issues, and I talk about this in the book, talked about it more subsequent to the publication of the book about specifically what those transitional issues are and then what the negotiated issues are. Obviously, the transitional issues for us are not going to be substantial. I mean, those are either accomplished via constitutional amendment or legislative action, expanding the statute, striking certain statutes, things of that nature. That's all things we can do internally. And we can go into special session after special session after special session, back to back to back until it's done, and we could power through it. The challenge is going to be the negotiated issues and how long those get done, how long it takes to get those done. I've suggested putting once the negotiations start, putting a 2-year clock, so to speak, to say, look, we're setting a clock from the moment we start negotiation. If it is not concluded satisfactorily between now and the end of a 2-year period, then here's what we will do. Things like, okay, look, if we cannot execute a trade agreement with the United States, perfectly fine. We will adopt the World Trade Organization tariff schedule and just go straight off the tariff books, right? Because the United States is a member of the WTO. So there are actions that we can take if they decide to drag their feet on negotiation. And the fact of the matter is, from the moment that we vote for Texas and we take care of some of these transitional issues, we can already be out negotiating trade and travel agreements and things of that nature. So 4 to 8 years, I don't know that it should take that long. As I said, I've been a fan of putting a countdown clock on it. But how long it's going to take to get us to the vote, I mean, we're well on our way to making this happen. I laid out, if you guys will go look at the Q&A that we did, there's an article in the news section written by our phenomenal team over there, our comm team, that talks about the launch of the petition, but also took an excerpt from a Q&A that I did after the announcement of the petition campaign that really explains everything in context. And we literally could be entering into the next legislative session if we execute across all fronts at 100%, and not even 100%, but if we just get across the finish line on the petition and challenge as many legislative seats as we possibly can, we could be walking into the next legislative session with a brand new, I mean, we can flip the script, right? It's the political equivalent of taking the chessboard and just completely flipping it over, right? Or replacing a bunch of those pieces with us. I mean, imagine what your legislature can look like. Imagine what we can get done on the Texan issue and so many other issues if we had a legislature that adhered to and believed in the mission and the principles of the TNM. And if you don't know what those are, right, if you're brand new to what we're doing, or you've been kind of circling around for a while, go to our about page, right, tnm.me/about, read our mission, read our principles, and then you will understand everything you need to know about what we do, what we say, and what we think. You will get it. You will be able to discern so many things from looking at that and understand that has been unchangeable and unwavering for us. It has been that way since our foundation in November of 2005. Okay, scrolling right through. David says he's presently packing up to move back home to Texas. Get home soon. Welcome home. Okay, scrolling down through here. Well, okay, so this brings an interesting question. RG says, I thought about moving to Texas, but figured my fight is better served in my home state. And I will tell you, many of you probably saw the news article about the event that we participated in up in New Hampshire, where it was a panel discussion with leaders from the Cal Exit movement and from the New Hampshire independence movement. And this was something that came up as part of that. There's video of that entire panel floating around out there. I think it's linked in that article where you can go watch it. But a young man from Wisconsin stood up and expressed sort of that same sentiment. He's like, hey, we're not kind of in that same mindset as Texans are. How do we make this work in Wisconsin? And I'm going to tell you, for those of you that are kind of watching us and trying to learn from what we're doing, we're open to having those conversations and to help you understand what it takes to, spin up a movement to get your state independent from the 2.5 million unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. But what it really starts with is putting out the feelers, finding other people in your state that believe that your state would be better off as a self-governing independent nation state, and then organizing. And when I say organizing, I don't mean setting up a Facebook group where you're a bunch of old guys shaking your fist at a cloud. I mean actual legitimate political advocacy and organizing. And that's a little bit tough of a step. I mean, ask anyone who ever spun off from the T&M because they thought they could do it faster or better, and then flamed out in 6 to 12 months. And you can't find those guys with a hunting dog and a Ouija board. Being an effective political advocacy organization is not easy, right? You have to, especially in this realm. Okay, ask Farage and those guys that were all in UKIP when they, what they had to do to transition from being kind of the laughing stock of the British electorate to being the third highest vote getters in the UK general elections. The things they had to do are the things that we've been doing since day one. And it's important. We don't always get it right, but we try to measure twice and cut once on a lot of things. So, I would just encourage you to reach out. Let's have that kind. If you're serious about spinning up a version of what we're doing in your state, then reach out. Let's have that conversation. The more, the merrier. Okay. Yeah. Someone said, I guess this is probably a comment to what I was talking about the treaty myth, about, Sam Houston was a Unionist. Well, look, it was true. Sam Houston was a Unionist in 1860 and 1861. That does not mean that he would be a Unionist today. And you can divine that from the speeches that he gave in favor of Texas staying in the Union and specifically not joining the Confederacy in 1860 and 1861. He went around Texas giving stump speeches in opposition to the move. And what he did was he laid out specific criteria that he believed would warrant Texas leaving the Union. And he by his criteria, he said those criteria had not been met at that time. But if you take those criteria and you lay them over where we are today, those criteria have been met and exceeded, right? Honestly, if Sam Houston was alive today, he would be knocking me out of the way to go get this done, because that's just the kind of guy he was. Okay, I don't know who that is. That must have been in one of the groups. You mad at me? You called me by my last name. I don't even know what's going on. Okay, man, I got to scroll way down. I am way behind. Joshua said, took Brexit almost a decade. The UK was more sovereign, less entangled than Texas is. Texas is not as entangled as you think it is. Again, go read the Texas book. Literally, let me just say this. If you have not read the Texas book and anyone is throwing any shade or casting any aspersions or anything like that, go read the book. And look, if you don't want to spring for the book, just go dig on the Texas section of the website. I literally address that in the book. about Texas being too tangled, right? But it's also addressed in the freebie on the Texas page of the website. Okay, let's see. Daniel, please give us your input of the current crop of gubernatorial. I did that at the very beginning. I talked about the gubernatorial candidates and kind of where we stand. So definitely on the replay, just kind of rewind it. It was like the second thing I talked about. Okay. Let's go through here. Yep. Okay. Okay, here's one from Beverly. Let's tackle this one. This is a good one. Beverly says, one of the main arguments I hear today whilst promoting Texit is one I haven't faced before. Folks point to ERCOT as rationale against Texit. Do you have a quick response I could use with these Texicants? Okay, first off, bonus points for the term Texicant, because I have used that in email to more than one washout. So I love your use of the term Texicant. That being said, the ERCOT argument is used by people that are casting about looking for any excuse to not have to do something about the situation between Texas and the United States. I mean, that's just the bottom line, because it is one of the weakest arguments that you've got. Okay, first off, let's take this scenario about what happened with ERCOT and Snowpocalypse 21 and put it in the context of what would have happened of Texas being an independent, self-governing, sovereign nation, right? Number one, ERCOT would not have been, the board members of ERCOT would not have been made up primarily of non-Texans. Okay, so let's start there, including the chair and the vice chair. That wouldn't have happened. Okay, so you would not have had a board comprised of people so disconnected from the realities here in Texas that they were unaware that there was some work that needed to be done, right? They were too busy planning out how they were going to scheme trading carbon credits. And if you don't believe me, go look at the biographies of the former chair and vice chair of ERCOT. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, understand that part of the reason, and our elected officials are at fault, part of this is that the core power generation here in Texas, the balance of it was upset. The market forces that would have led to more stable base production of electricity, all of those market forces were upset by massive federal subsidies in wind and solar. It became a take from our pockets and set up a cash grab for anybody who could string together 3 solar panels and stick a windmill in the ground in West Texas and pay them buku bucks, right? So when they subsidize solar and wind, if you go back and you look at that during the Obama administration, there's a 2-year period where all of those subsidies started kicking in. And if you go look at that 2-year period, you're going to see news article after news article after news article of power plant projects that were either in planning or beginning construction that were completely, shelved or shuttered because they could not compete in a subsidized solar and wind market, right? So the market forces were working, and then the federal government took all that money that it's stealing from us and poured it into subsidies for this, upset the balance. And, as we found out that solar and wind are just primarily not effective as core power production here in Texas, summer or winter, And so what we found is the lurch toward the federal vision of the way our energy grid should work led us to being like California. And I love how they rub our noses in it, right? Okay, well, your power went out, people died. Well, it's like, look, guys, you guys suffer rolling brownouts if it gets up to 73 degrees. Okay, so don't even start messing with us. Okay, but the bottom line is that the ERCOT argument is weak, and it's like a lot of the anti-Texit arguments. It's used by people that just kind of throw it out there and don't really know anything about it. Kind of like the Texas versus white thing. It's really rare to run into someone who, number one, throws out the Supreme Court said, leaving the union's unconstitutional. It's rare to find someone that actually knows what the court case is that they're trying to cite. And number two, when they do know the term Texas versus white, it's really rare that you find any of them that read it or know any of the facts of the case. So, okay. Let's go through here real quick. And guys, I'm trying to scroll through here and catch up. If I don't get to your question, please, it is not a slide, I promise. I'm just trying to scroll through here and just pick out what I can. Okay. And you guys, I mean, this governor's thing's hot. I wasn't lying at the beginning, right? There you go. ERCOT board members are not Texans. Well, and someone wants to debate the issue about the criteria being met in 1861. That was not the question. The question was about Sam Houston being a unionist. His criteria that he believed fit was not met. Okay. History lessons. Okay, Daniel says, sorry to interrupt. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I think we should talk. If you want to talk, hey, the contact form. Look, any of you guys, if you want to talk, if you're with another organization, you want to spin up something like we're doing, or you want to participate, our website is like the nexus, right? The contact form. If you're a member supporter and you need direct support, go there. If you want to volunteer, go to the volunteer page. If you have Texit questions, go to the Texit page. If you have petition questions, go to the petition page. I mean, we literally throw everything there, so you can get anything you want there. Okay, I think I need a sip of coffee, man. I'm doing more talking than drinking coffee. Okay, everybody drink. And Josh is right. If we were serious about fixing our infrastructure, we'd be building nuclear desalination. I can't disagree with that. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, I made it to the end of the chat. Wow. Okay. How's this for an impromptu Q&A, right? So, look, that being said, I think we've been at this almost an hour. We're at 54 minutes. Okay, Omar says, any chance the Republic of Texas will get rid of citizenship-based taxation? Texas has, and I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but Texas has a ban, a long-standing ban on personal income tax. I don't foresee that will be on anyone's radar. And look, I'll straight tell you that any politician who suggests that we should have a personal income tax is committing political suicide. That's just that's if you never want to get elected to dog catcher, again, suggest passing a personal income tax. That'll get you on a slow boat to California around the tip of South America. You don't even get to use the Panama Canal. Okay. Daniel says, will Texas Republic promote coffee plantations to support your habit? Let's hope so. Yeah, it's going to take that. I don't want to be held hostage. Okay. Well, look, guys, we're here. We're right under an hour. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to go ahead and just remind you all. But first off, thank you. Right, if I circle back around to the beginning of this, you guys have been so kind and generous and understanding. I really, again, apologize for not being able to do the scheduled Q&A tonight in the manner in which it should be done. Instead, I'm here in this hotel room in Dallas because of a family obligation. And, and for those of you who have expressed concern, again, thank you so much. My daughter came out of the surgery just fine. And I am very thankful for that. That being said, we are mushing on. Definitely, when you get to the end of this thing, be sure to, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button so you can get notified anytime we go live or when we post new videos. And the same thing on our Facebook page, right? Like it, share it, like our page, and make sure that you have notifications turned on. Facebook is really notorious for not notifying you when our page posts or when we go live with a video. So be sure you do that. And then, of course, since I'm not broadcasting on Periscope, then I don't need to tell you to follow us on Twitter. In addition, we are on a ton of other social media platforms. Literally, if I had to speak out every social media platform that we are on, it would be another hour. So I'm not going to do that. But just look for us. You will find us by doing a search on virtually any social media platform, MeWe, all of them. We're there. Anytime we get a substantial piece of feedback that a social media channel might be necessary, then we go there, we establish a presence. Not that we monitor it, not that we do a lot with it, but when the mass exodus occurs from these majors, like it's bound to do, because no one gets to stay king forever, right? Facebook or MySpace, right? Tom on MySpace. We've got to be ready. So that being said, I will give you another reminder. Head over to our website at tnm.me. That's tnm.me. And there, if you are not a member of the organization, I would encourage you to click the join button, join with us, become a member. Drop a little coin in there, help us get on down the road, help us continue to take our message of Texas independence to Texans by clicking the donate button. And importantly, get involved, right? Help us get across the finish line on this petition campaign. If you are ready to, if you don't feel like you're being represented by your state representative or state senator and want to jam your hand in the air, we are looking for credible, viable candidates to run for office. And, always volunteer. Look, become a petition circulator, volunteer, become a local coordinator. There is every way under the sun that for those people that are serious about making Texas a self-governing independent nation again, there's every way in the world that we can get you plugged into our organization and you can help make it happen. So be sure to reach out to us. Go to our website, tnm.me. With that, I am going to sign off. I had to be at the hospital this morning about 5 a.m. So I am dragging a bit, but I will be giving updates from the road while we are on this tour, and looking forward to having a lot of great information to share with you. And who knows, maybe we'll even try to live stream one of the events, maybe one of the events there in West Texas, the Panhandle. But until then, let me remind you of the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.